Hey everyone, welcome to Lightroom in a Snap. In this episode, I'll be showing you some really useful tips and tricks for getting the most out of the spot removal tool. The steps I'll be showing in this episode are available in both desktop versions of Lightroom, the cloud-based Lightroom app and Lightroom Classic. If you're not familiar with the differences between the two Lightroom apps, be sure to check out my blog post where I cover all the pros and cons of each version and provide some recommendations to help you decide which is best for you. Moving right along, let's jump on into Lightroom Classic. The first thing to know is you generally want to do your spot removal as one of your first steps. I usually only apply lens corrections and just a few basic adjustments before I scan my image for things that need to be cleaned up. At first glance, this image isn't too bad. So far, I can only see a couple dust spots in the sky. Here and here. Even so, they're pretty hard to see. Let's jump into the spot removal tool to clean those up. Okay, looking good, but this is one time you definitely want to zoom into your image, generally to 100%, and really take a look around. Tip number one to do this is to zoom in. If you already have the spot removal tool active, just hold down the spacebar and click to zoom, and then press the home key on your keyboard. This jumps your view to the upper left corner. Now, if I press the page down key, it moves me down to the next section of the image. Watch what happens here in the navigator window. The white box represents what you're seeing in the main view. Keep pressing page down and you'll end up scanning the entire image until you finish in the lower right corner. You can also press page up to go back or hit home to go back to that upper left corner. Now, while you have the spot removal tool active, try pressing the A key to turn on the Visualize Spots aid. There's also a tick box down here. That makes it a little easier to find spots you may not see right away in the normal view. You can also use the slider to change the sensitivity of the Visualize Spots aid, but you have to be careful as it may start picking up too many finer details, which will actually make it harder to find the spots you need to clean up. In this image, it starts picking up grain that I can clean up pretty easily by making adjustments in the sharpening and noise reduction tools, but that's a topic for a future tutorial. Now that I've got Visualize Spots turned on, let's do another quick scan of the image to see if there's anything that stands out now. Now I've already hit the home button to move me back up to the upper left corner. As soon as I hit page down, I can just see that there's another spot right here that's just creeping into the image. So if I go ahead and click on that, I'll heal it right up. Now just continue to hit the page down key to review the entire image. Okay, we're looking pretty good. Or are we? Keep in mind you're doing this early on in your editing workflow. What if I decide I want to darken the sky a bit as I continue to make adjustments? Let's disable spot removal for a second and take a look at what happens if I decide to enable this sky mask I've created that's going to darken down the sky a bit with some dehaze. Now if you look closely in this area here, suddenly there's a few spots that are showing up that before this mask was enabled weren't noticeable even with the Visualize Spots aid turned on. Guess we're not done after all. For tip number 2, here's a little hack to help you catch all the spots in an image like this. Let me turn off this mask temporarily and close out the masking panel. In Lightroom Classic, simply go to the dehaze slider and move it all the way up to 100. Please note that dehaze is found under the effects panel in the non-classic version of Lightroom. Now, this looks horrible and we're not going to leave it like this, but it's a great way to help find some of the trickier spots that elude the Visualize Spots tool. You can quickly see there are actually a bunch of areas in this image that can be cleaned up even before I zoom back into it. In a case like this, I may tackle the most obvious spots first, and then zoom in again to give the image a careful scan at 100%, removing the spots as I go. Now in this case, since I've got dehaze turned all the way up like that, I'm actually going to disable the Visualize Spots overlay so that I can just see what's being called out with that boosted dehaze. Now, once I'm done, I'm just going to go back to that dehaze slider in the basic panel and double click on the word dehaze to reset that to 0. Now, you're ready to continue editing your image and you won't have to worry about some hidden spot suddenly jumping out as you make further adjustments. One more quick note. If you enjoy these tutorials and find them helpful, I would be really grateful if you took advantage of the new thanks feature here in YouTube to show your appreciation. Your support will help ensure I can continue to create valuable content like this going forward. And that's Lightroom in a Snap.